Supposed to be pulling strings, but they can't fuck with the
Purchase your
game.
tracks
I'm on
today.
the F in the plane. F in your mouth, I'm on play. Finna play society. Hello, I think it's like a robot, yeah. Can't think of downloads and shit, man. You do that. Taking the word of flat, man. The globe is a whole thing. Shit, satellites are not real, man. I think satellites are real, man. I don't even know what they're doing. How about the Eagles and shit, man? They already got it, man. I'm telling you right now, it's all the hoes, man. All the hoes, man. Shout out, what up, bro? Tim out, man. What up, bro? Yeah, man.
Okay, we are live 8/7/2024 on the anniversary of the eve of the Lahaina fires. That was last 8/8, which has some significance. It's the Lion's Gate, something about the astronomical alignments, something about, I believe, is it Sirius in the heart of Leo? But anyway, supposedly it's some kind of a portal. You can look it up, the 8/8 Lion's Gate portal thing, which has a lot of significance when you connect it to the metascript down here on the ground. Significantly, there's been some recent developments on the Donnie Darko predictive programming, making this something of a prediction. That if you go by Frank, the the bunny in that movie, the bunny character, Frank, Donnie Darko's imaginary friend, his 28-day prophecy would pretty much conclude that the end of the world could be on the 8th or the 9th. And we're talking about Trump counting 28 days from 7/13. We'll go into that and some other Metascript clues. If you missed drinking chemtrail rain, I put a link in the newsletter. So just so you know, if I'm out in the field and I'm painting and I'm live streaming, like the other day I was painting and the storm clouds I was painting, they actually washed most of the paint off the canvas, but I can't send out live stream notifications. You have to be subscribed to the Infinite Plane Society channel. And those are random. Whenever I can escape for a few minutes, that I have enough time to do a live stream. If I'm out there painting, I will. If I'm within range. Elephant Tusk says Trump always uses the lion symbol. If he doesn't win, what's going to become of Q? And the plan? Are they going to maintain the delusion that he's still the secret commander-in-chief and everyone else are just puppets and people in masks playing roles because disclosure would be too difficult? I mean, they can only drag the charade along so long. I mean, Q is effectively dead if Trump doesn't win. They made a bit of a break from reality, but they were able to say, well, the reason he lost is that he actually won. So that we could see firsthand how bad things are, and then we can fix it. And I never really got that. I never really got the impression that things are worse or better. From my perspective, things have been getting increasingly better as we find out how really flaccid Big Brother is. It's all mind war. There's no UN troops going to kick down your door and rip the question marks off your keyboard. It's all going to be coercion, basically conditioning people to accept these new conditions without any resistance. It's all mind war at this point. It's all in your heads. So let's go ahead and go over a couple of things before we go much further. I wanted to get to this main thing about how Kanye West, it's like he's getting the Michael Jackson treatment. This is really ominous. And I don't know if it's true 100%, because it's coming from Milo Yiannopoulos. So if you don't know, Milo Yiannopoulos was an editor of Breitbart. He was a popular MAGA figure in 2016, and I think he largely popularized the whole 666 hand sign among the alt-right. And he kind of fell from grace after he inadvertently admitted some terrible things to the amazing atheist. He has since converted to Catholicism. He's had a number of positions with various political celebrities like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Ye, he was Ye's, I guess he was going to be his campaign manager when Ye was running for president. But anyway, he claims here that Ye is being targeted, extorted essentially, destroyed, cognitively and otherwise, by his dentist. Thomas Connolly, says Milo Yiannopoulos, is a dangerous predator who targets African American celebrities into whose mouths he puts fake diamonds. He must be stopped. I put in a complaint with the California Dental Board to that end last week, and I read his affidavit, and it's pretty shocking. It basically suggests that this dentist had moved all kinds of nitrous oxide tanks into Ye's house and charged him a certain amount per month to keep him high on gas. And it sounds insane. Goes on to say, there's a reason why Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, is no longer capable of successfully releasing music or clothing. There are several reasons, and the most recent is his dentist, Thomas Connolly. He got Ye hooked on nitrous laughing gas. It is my belief that Connolly sought to diminish Ye's mental faculty so Connolly and his business associates could extract millions from him. Anyway, he goes on to say, Ye has been hooked on nitrous, and then he went into the resurrection of a longtime fantasy of making porn. Now, it gets even more insane if you read the affidavit, where there's this implication that if he refused to pay a certain amount, there'd be a third party possibly bringing harm to Ye. I mean, it's like a horror movie. Like maybe MK Ultra is real, but it's reminiscent of the story around Michael Jackson. But if you haven't read it, I don't know how serious it is. This is Milo Yiannopoulos, and he's like Laura Loomer's level of sensationalism. But Ye did say this. Ye's perspective changed while under nitrous gas. Quote, one time I was at the dentist's office and I was given nitrous gas, and I was vibing out. It's my version of Steve Jobs and his LSD trip. And I thought, what's the meaning of life? What's the key to happiness? What do you want in life? Anyway, it goes on about how he had this major epiphany, and he says, I'm under the gas, I'm getting my teeth cleaned, and I corrected myself. I said, it doesn't matter if I'm remembered. I came out of the gas and had a new attitude on everything. So we had some kind of epiphany on the gas. And again, the claim here is that he is being intentionally addicted to laughing gas and then being taken advantage of in a number of ways. And again, if you read the affidavit, it's pretty shocking. Let me go ahead and open up your comments here. It's 8/7/2024. We only have about 45 minutes, so if you want to call in, phones are open. Austin 108, HLG, Ted Striker, Elephant Tusks, Deprogrammed Truther. Yep, Flozik. This is kind of late, but we'll get started earlier tomorrow. No, it's I don't know exactly the composition of the gas he was taking, but I've read a few things about it, and it made me think about, it could be fake, but it does seem very ominous. And again, this is the claim from Milo Yiannopoulos. I'm going to go through the affidavit a little bit. He goes through his background, his credentials, how he was the chief of staff and the political director and head of public affairs for Ye's company, and he did a lot to cut down on expenditures, how much money was going out. And he suggested too that the archives have been plundered. There's been rampant, essentially, a malappropriation of all kinds of money under false pretenses. It seems like a mess. And I believe that they split up when Milo wanted nothing to do with Ye's idea of starting a adult video company. But anyway, goes on to say, by April, employees at all levels of the company were worrying about Ye's dependence on the gas, and they were speaking openly about it. Ye would talk about it nonstop in meetings. He was in and out of the inhaler mask on a constant basis. He even posted a video message to the MMA fighter Ryan Garcia. Oh, come on. Ryan Garcia from the whole Bohemian Grove Me Too psyop. He's got the strangest friends. You got Ye, Ryan Garcia, Milo Yiannopoulos counts among the strange friends. Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones. I mean, you look at the mix of the people around him. Anyway, it goes on to say his directives were becoming incomprehensible. Fascinating. I had no idea that people got hooked on laughing gas. Says as many as 5 of his employees have been sufficiently worried enough as to have taken photographs of the home nitrous installation. Connolly admitted he had taken the canisters to Ye's home, but claims they were empty. Goes on how, this is basically a complaint to the dental association or whatever. We'll see what happens. This just kicked off. I haven't seen Ye's response yet. This is something else I mentioned the other day. Further development. I mentioned the story about how Kamala Harris's aide back in like 2015 and two others were arrested for running a fake police department or a Masonic Templar police department. Here's some headlines. California Attorney General, that'd be Harris, employee and two others charged with running a police force under the authority of the Knights Templar with jurisdiction in 33 states and Mexico with roots traced back 3,000 years. National Post, Brandon Keel gave me a business card from a Department of Justice showing he worked out of Kamala Harris's office. This has raised red flags. Bizarre fake police force included Kamala Harris aide. So these are some headlines, but there's something that was been added to it since. Here's some mugshots. It has a David Henry, Tanette Hayes, and a Brandon Keel with their book photos. It says, three people, and this is Santa Clarita, California, including an aide to California Attorney General Kamala Harris, were arrested for impersonating police officers and creating a fake law enforcement agency called the Masonic Fraternal Order of Police. Now, what is going on here? Is it fake or they just got caught? But what's more, this was just mentioned in the comments, the guy David Henry who was involved died, and that would be the guy on the far left here, at 47, and the case was dismissed. So it's no longer a case. But again, you have this, quote, fake police department tracing its roots back 3,000 years with jurisdiction in 33 states. Like, that's weird. Okay, moving on. Illusion Warfare had this tweet I had to share. The masses cannot separate real life from the Black Mirror reality. In parentheses, he has TV, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. No, they can't. See, this is the thing. The map is not the territory, but nobody seems to notice. They actually conflate the two on purpose. They want you to think that the false model is the world. That if you see it on TV, it's real. And every day we are debating with and having conversation with people on the other side of the screen who say, how dare you call this stuff fake? It's like, well, you're sitting in your seat looking at the magician on the stage performing tricks, and you are bedazzled, you're bewildered, your minds are blown, you think it's all magic. And me and my friends are walking around, we're looking backstage, we're reading the magician's manuals. We have a more complete perspective to give a more complete assessment. We have informed disbelief, and you have low information, gullible belief. Which one weighs more? Which one's better? Which one's superior? Low info belief or skepticism and high info disbelief? Even agnosticism rates higher. Even I don't know rates higher than I'm going to trust what's on the screen. We should be past that. But we're not. I mean, as a society, we're not ever going to be. But the truthers, the standard bearers for speaking truth to the lying media, are just as much caught up in the lie infrastructure and the false worldview maintenance as the mainstreamers are. This is a revelation. This is why we're having a breakaway. Lord Laney says, sounds like the Seinfeld episode where the dentist diddled Jerry. Sounds horrifying. Ms. L said, I had an OBE on laughing gas as a kid. That'd be an out-of-body experience. I did recall it once. I think there was a poster on the ceiling of these chimpanzees, like in a jungle or something, and I remember just the chimpanzees spinning. But Lynn Dion says, Bianca Sensori walks around nude, pretty much so weird. Yeah, I think her name is weird. I Censor. Like, he was just off. He was just speaking his mind, dropping bombs, making waves. He was gaining headlines. They couldn't shut him up. And then they give him this Kim Kardashian clone, like basically a better looking Kim Kardashian clone, and a little younger. And her name is Sensori, like I Censor, and it has shut him up. Between that and the laughing gas, we haven't really heard much. He hasn't really made any significant waves. And if he was really trying to shock the fashion world, there's nothing shocking about non-erotic nudity. It's just nudity. It's just, this is not a big deal. If you want to shock the world, Ye should be the naked one. And she should be walking him around dressed up in all black with big boots. You see, that would get attention. That would make a statement. Tomonoid3 says Kamala got that nitro. I got to get my Kamala Harris shirt, by the way. Eric Stevens says Captain Osmond putting the capital R in raft. Yep, the raft, adrift, or float rather. And we're not even adrift at this point. Here we are atop now it's the ocean of irrelevance. It's not just the sea of irrelevance, as the Huxley said. Aldous Huxley, the sea of irrelevance, in which facts no longer matter because there's no cohesive context. But now it's the ocean. The entire world stage has been flooded. Maybe that's the age of Aquarius, the info dump. The age of Aquarius, he's dumping the water. And the Thelemite cult that I was associated with told me that the age of Aquarius represented an outpouring of information, of knowledge. That water symbolized the knowledge, and that we were going to see everything externalized, revealed. And maybe that is true. But there's so much of it, and there's no coherence to it. That's why we have all these, which should be mutually exclusive, opinions on things. But no, you have facts and alternate facts. Choose your own apocalypse. As long as your opinions originate from a place within the MSM box, you're not a threat to the system. You can believe and say and think anything. What's up, Buzz Dean? Says good to hear you live. Yeah, make sure you get on the newsletter, ips.monster, for live stream notifications, and hit the bell on the Infinite Plane Society YouTube in case I go live when I'm mobile. But anyway, about Sensori and Ye, we're just talking about how Ye is, according to Milo Yiannopoulos, about to be Michael Jacksoned. So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, here's what I brought up earlier. This is from Corporal Joe Bowers on X. He said, Donnie Darko represents Donald Trump. It's Donald J. Darko. And we've spoken about this many times. There's many reasons for saying so. We talked about the significance of the movie, its director, and all the different psyops that have been predicted by this movie with specificity. But it says here, in the film story, Donnie narrowly escapes death by a falling jet engine. And on that same date, he receives a prophecy from the rabbit that his world will end in 28 days. So Donald Trump narrowly escaped death on July 13th. So 28 days later, that's pretty much at some point tomorrow or the 9th. It says the 9th here, but I'm just saying that's coming. Something to look forward to. So if you still have your nothing burger from the 4th, if you haven't eaten that or thrown it in the garbage, there may be something to put in there. Yesterday we talked about this guy. This is just insane. Nicolas Maduro claims that Javier Milei and Elon Musk are members of a satanic cult linked to Adolf Hitler. It's nice to see the truth getting out there. But what I failed to mention yesterday when I was talking about how true and accurate this all is, because it is true, Elon Musk was spawned from the imagination of a Nazi who was friends with Walt Disney. We're talking about Werner von Braun and Mars, A Technical Tale, about the Elon who would colonize Mars. This is where Musk has his genesis, in the mind of a Nazi. And we live in the Disney universe on Planet Netflix. But it is 100% true to say that the space program, that NASAtology at its core, is an Egyptian mystery school. So it may not be accurate to call it a satanic cult. You could call it a Thelemic cult. And they do, in fact, worship the obelisk in the form of the rocket. And SpaceX is literally space sex, because space is really just a metaphor for higher states of consciousness. And that's what you're really looking at here if you look at what's the esoteric meaning behind the exoteric rites. There's a reason why his Raptor's got 33 engines, and why it takes Mach 33 as a speed to exit the material realm, to leave the Earth. It's all just a cult. So he's right about that these individuals are part of it, and you might as well link them to Hitler. Now, here's the thing I failed to mention. Alex Jones says, quote, he's totally nuts. Like, Alex Jones is not the arbiter of what is real and fake. And for the first time, we have someone plainly speaking the truth, and Jones comes out to say he's totally nuts. I'm like, okay, wasn't Alex Jones going to be censored? Weren't the Sandy Hookers going to come take all his toys away? Do you remember that pity party he had like a month ago? Like rest in peace, me. I'm gonna be gone. He never shut up. He never disappeared. But anyway, his comment here, which is totally nuts, is that this guy's totally nuts. No, he's totally right. Elon Musk and anyone else in the space papacy are linked to the occult forces behind Adolf Hitler and Walt Disney. Eddie F says, I was watching the latest Mission Impossible, the newest one. Tom Cruise wore a realistic mask. Reminds me of Joe Biden. Interesting. Again, the key with Tom Cruise, in addition to him being the Jesus Christ of Scientology and being this Gnostic Jesus character, the hanged god, and also a Yuri Gagarin stand-in, and Major Tom from the David Bowie song, Space Oddity, Ground Control to Major Tom. He's already predicted in various forms to die in space. The name Tom or Thomas means twin. So the twin cruise or twin cross is a reference, in my view, to the double cross, which refers to the resurrection. You have the first rung, which is death, and the second one is the resurrection. So this is an important symbol, like Top Gun 2, T2. That movie is just replete with symbolism, sun god symbolism, resurrection stuff, phoenix stuff. Very, very significant here. But we've been looking at this symbol for some time. Interestingly, Marilyn Manson, who we talked about last week when he released a new track, and the cover had some symbolism on there with the one eye, and he's done the whole Antichrist thing. He has double crosses behind him on the stage, and it's significant because we're talking about someone whose predictive programming has been significantly represented on the world stage. So he's not just some random artist. You have the whole Columbine thing blamed on him. Then you had the follow-up video for Coma White, in which he's JFK being assassinated. And the song is kind of forecasting this worship of JFK Jr. that we see among the MAGAs, the QAnoners. It's remarkably predictive. And that video's release was also delayed because of the death of JFK Jr. And he said, I didn't know JFK Jr. was going to die when I released this video. Because it obviously would have been about him, the third Jesus. Strange story, but my point here is that Marilyn Manson, Antichrist, and the double cross on his tour right now, he has these big double crosses behind him. Same meaning as like T2, like Terminator 2. And what's the significant thing about Terminator 2? If you look at the movie poster, it's the single eye. There's quite a lot of, in fact, we've been looking at this symbolism for such a long time, but the double cross is one of the common symbols that we should be noting here. And Tom Cruise has been consistently represented with the masks and the twin thing, the double thing. And when he came out with this latest facial augmentation, he had some kind of surgery done, a lot of people didn't recognize him, and they didn't believe it was him. He showed up at some baseball game. And that really started this confusion, which I think is deliberate. And he's an interesting character for a few other reasons as well, because he was, on Eyes Wide Shut with Stanley Kubrick, who obviously has a lot to do with the space program and the fakery therein, and his daughter is a Scientologist. So you have the Scientology connection. And the Scientology connection to NASA really begins before Scientology was Scientology, but when its founder, L. Ron Hubbard, was doing these, whatever you want to call them, rituals with the movie star Marjorie Cameron and warlock American counterpart to Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons. And this weirdness with the space program and the occult is everywhere. I mean, the Russian rocket pioneers were all about cosmism, which is space as heaven, and that has its roots in theosophy, which is pretty much New Ageism. It's all like a hydra. It all goes back to the same basic body of ideas. Yeah, then there was Tom Cruise's "I Want to Be an Astronaut" speech. Wayne Dion mentions that's the speech at the Oscars, the first Oscars after 9/11, where he comes out and he talks about how Stanley Kubrick made him want to be an astronaut. And my contention is that Tom Cruise has a world stage role, just as all these other big name idols do, these icons they put in front of us. And I think it may have something to do with his first, well, when he goes to space, he's going to be the first civilian to do a spacewalk. But there's been a few bits of foreshadowing that I've picked up on for some time. We can go back to just search Tom Cruise dead in space. I think he's dead on the moon in South Park. Yeah, here's a dead Tom Cruise laying on the moon. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. Yeah, there he is, next to some whale. Is that Shamu? There's some kind of killer whale. There we go. There's Tom Cruise dead on the moon. And then there's a video by David Bowie. I think it's the one where he's on the moon and they have these cat people and Major Tom is dead on the moon. And he's just basically a skeleton in an astronaut suit on the surface of the moon. Here's an image of that. And this cult of cat people worship his skull. So here you have, which is reminiscent of like John the Baptist, the Templars. There's something to it. But anyway, my contention is that this is Major Tom, and I think this does tie into specifically Tom Cruise and the historic role he's presently playing on the world stage. In fact, on the 11th, he's going to be doing some kind of a motorcycle stunt at the Olympics. But we've picked up a number of clues, and if you care to look, I have an article here called Top Gun 2, Tom Cruise, Second Coming, Sun God Symbolism, and the Next 9/11. And this is a reference to this incoming space station disaster. They're going to 9/11 the ISS. We have a lot of reasons to think so. But what I picked up on here was just the blatant symbolism surrounding the release of his movie Top Gun 2. Everything from after 33 years, we have a trailer for Top Gun Maverick, set 33 years after the original. And then we have the characters. Rooster, whose father died in the previous movie. In Christian tradition, the rooster is a symbol of Christ, like the eagle and the lamb. But it's the rooster that announces the light following the night. Same thing with the Phoenix. You have a character named Phoenix. Phoenix is another one of these. Then you have many references, though, here to resurrection. The son of the character from the first movie, 33 years old. Then, of course, you have the twin cross. We talked about this one just a minute ago. Now, Tom Cruise, in his character in this movie, he has to basically die to save Rooster, and you think he's dead for a minute. So they kind of have this salvation theme. You have a character named Hangman. Anyone care to guess how old the actor was who played Hangman? Who said he was the savior speaking? That he was good? Yep, he was 33 at the time this movie was made. It took 33 rounds to take out the Darth Vader looking pilot. The Top Gun school opened on 3/3/69. We have a Top Gun flight helmet. Tom Cruise wore the HGU 33. Tom Cruise's 33 problem. He split with all three of his wives as soon as they turned 33. I found a number of other clues here that connect him to Yuri Gagarin. Here's the quote, and I knew right then and there I wanted to be an astronaut. He spoke of his love of movie magic. He gave a shout out to Stanley Kubrick, recounting how watching 2001 Space Odyssey made him want to be an astronaut. The thing is, 2001 A Space Odyssey specifically predicted 9/11 in a lot of different ways. Even if you, I mean, you'd have to include the Millennium Hilton Monolith Hotel overlooking Ground Zero, because the way it looked amidst the devastation was reminiscent of the scene in 2001 A Space Odyssey when they're unearthing the monolith on the moon or whatever. There's just so much of it here, but this is just Duper's delight. We have Top Gun Maverick lights the fires with $33 million at the box office opening. Anyway, I'll put a link here because this article goes in depth, so if you want to read it, it's just basically a breakdown of the sun god symbolism around the movie. It's undeniable, but it's all connected to the mystery schools behind Nasatology and Scientology. And when I say Nasatology, I'm not even joking. That is the world state's religion. The doctrines are scientism, but your religion, you would call it Nasatology. It's like Scientology, but they have better special effects. But Scientology has better actors. But essentially, it's the same thing. It's this utopianism. It's the traditional religions dressed up with science fiction. Okay, let's get back on track here. We were talking about Musk, Nazis, and Satanism, how people are trapped in the black mirror reality. This is a post from Michael and Truth. This is the flag that got tangled at the Trump rally before he was, quote, shot, and it looks like an angel. We've kind of talked about this. We have to remember that the whole event had 9/11 all over it, like on the side of Trump's head, like there was the shooting at 6/11. We were looking at the different key elements here, the symbolism of the flag, how it was represented, Trump's avatar with the 9 stars and the 2 bars behind it, the 9/11 there, that he basically recreated. We're looking at all this stuff. But here's something else. Michael and Truth said, Donnie posted this staged flag nonsense about how it looked like an angel during the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. Abaddon is the angel of the bottomless pit. Donnie, he calls him Donnie. Donald Trump was born on 6/14, Flag Day. So he's making a connection here between the flag angel and the angel of the bottomless pit from Revelation 9:11. I think it's a pretty fair connection. And I pointed out too that Abaddon is Apollyon, is the destroyer, which is a reference to the nuke when Oppenheimer says, I have become the destroyer of worlds. This is why the Trump deranged Robert De Niro said that he would destroy everything. It's all code. The term Apollyon even means terminator, like exterminator. And the Terminator is another one of these characters that represents the same thing, especially when you look at the James Cameron connections to 9/11. Again, just a quick thing, he did the Titanic, which symbolically represents the West sinking. This is one of the symbols that we've been talking about. But in his movie, in 1997, the movie comes out, it splits in two, and it sinks like Twin Towers. Even has jumpers on one of them. But on 9/11, he was in the abyss. On 9/11, James Cameron was at the site of the sunken Titanic, filming a documentary called Ghosts in the Abyss. And again, the Bible reference talks about it as being the abyss, or the bottomless pits, the abyss. But I had said that at this time, when I started connecting this stuff, I was like, look, they're talking about Trump like he's a mafia don, as they're charging him with all these crimes. And I had said that we could just look at Abaddon as a bad don. And sure enough, he had been referred to as a mafia don. And so I think that, we had made these multiple connections. And so looking at this, I would say that, yeah, this is pretty accurate. Donald Trump is the Antichrist. Although the MAGAs think he's literally Christ. Okay, let's continue. We talked about Ye. Oh, here we go. Taylor Swift. So, organizer cancels all 3 Taylor Swift concerts in Australia due to a terror threat. Taylor Swift had to cancel her shows because government officials confirmed there was a planned terror attack. They had no choice but to schedule or cancel them, and then, of course, tickets are being refunded. So, Taylor Swift's being threatened. Kind of interesting timing because I think she just endorsed Kamala Harris. Then we have this. Roger Stone says there's reports that Iran has a plot to assassinate Donald Trump, but these could just be misdirections so that the deep state could take him out. Let's go ahead and listen to this short clip by the highly credible Roger Stone.
On Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania, where through the grace of God, he survives by turning his head at exactly the right moment. And we find more and more.
It was the armor of God that saved him. Ephesians 6:11. That's why he was shot at 6:11. That is the actual script.
About the fact that it appears that Secret Service stood down. 2 days later, we hear of an Iranian plot to kill Trump, which to me is deeply disturbing. And then that's followed by the charges against this Pakistani national, claiming that he was planning to assassinate Trump and others.
Anyway, this is just MSM plus fiction. Pete Trippa says, what's the main topics for tonight? Ye being intentionally hooked on laughing gas by his dentist, being mind-controlled MK Ultra as his controllers laugh their way to the bank, and Milo Yiannopoulos swoops in for the rescue. Taylor Swift's concerts have been shut down because of threats by terrorists. And then we've been talking about... Oh, let's get into this, actually. This is interesting. This is an old clip from John Ronson on C-SPAN. Very revealing, possibly bombshell. Let me play this clip.
Alex Jones is what kind of a guy? How do you explain?
He's 26 years old and looks 10 years older. He's a hero to the...
Odd comment. The comment here again. John Ronson on C-SPAN. Alex Jones. He's 26 and he looks 10 years older. Which is an odd thing to say. Because we used to ask this question, and I'm not, trying to single him out and saying, because I'm not making any statements other than asking the question. Because if Alex Jones is Bill Hicks, which is a ridiculous conspiracy theory, I know. But if he is Bill Hicks, then he's got to be older than his purported, whatever he is, 47 or 48. Alex Jones is like 40-something. But Bill Hicks would have been like 10 or 12 years older. And so here you have this comment where John Ronson says, Alex Jones is 26 and he looks 10 years older. Well, what if Alex Jones was 36 at the time and he's really Bill Hicks? That's what's being suggested here. Well, he goes on to compare Alex to Bill Hicks. Listen to this.
To the militias. He's a burgeoning new hero. On one hand, he's kind of like Tex Mars, a popular underground radio talk show host. But he's also much more than somebody like Tex Mars. He's an activist. So he rebuilt David Koresh's church.
Where can you hear him?
Infowars.com is his website, and he broadcasts. And he broadcasts in like 40 cities.
Now, what he's talking about here, he's describing Alex Jones, but there's a point here where he compares Alex Jones to Bill Hicks, and he laughs as he talks about Bill Hicks dying of cancer. And why is this significant? This is the guy that sneaked into Bohemian Grove with Alex Jones.
Crazy, he'd be the new Bill Hicks. The new Bill Hicks. He's got an amazing way.
The new Bill Hicks. Alex Jones, the new Bill Hicks. By somebody who says he looks 10 years older. And again, this is the guy who went to Bohemian Grove.
Cancer in the 90s. And again, was kind of hero to the libertarian left Bill Hicks because he smoked in the face of cancer.
So there you go. And he's laughing at Bill Hicks dying of cancer, which is, this is just not adding up to me. But there's a number of clues for those of you who believe that Alex Jones is Bill Hicks, but you ran out of steam on that conspiracy theory because there's an age gap of like 10 years. Well, here you have your age gap solved. You have a first-hand witness who says he looks 10 years older. What do you all think? Okay, let's see here. Catching up on X here. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is doubling down on rounding up people guilty of wrongthink. Now, that would include us, I imagine. Let's go ahead and hear him out.
To coordinate our response to the disorder. And I made it very clear on a number of occasions that those involved will feel the full force of the law. So we coordinated, we went through some of the numbers. Over 400 people now have been arrested. 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week. That should send a very powerful message.
Rounding people up for postings online. Very interesting development. Now, I don't know if that would be a bad thing for us. Like, if they rounded us up and sent us all to some place for reprogramming or whatever, it might actually help us. It'd be like having an auto-hoaxer conference without having to raise funds and arrange transportation. Like, it might only help us. Like, do they really want to round us up and have us all in the same place? I don't think so. We might even just be untouchable. Like, they'll round up the truthers and the patriots and the MAGA band, but they won't touch the people who call it fake because they know we have a point. Lean Dion says, like the Oz government, they're blaming Elon a lot. Yeah, that's a great point because Elon Musk is a space faker. Space is a metaphor for your inner space, your mind. They use the space program to establish the worldview as they take control of your mind through various psyops. That's why you have overlaps with someone like Stanley Kubrick, faking space, but also faking on the ground psyops. That's all part of the same operation, mind control. The reason why Musk is being highlighted here as the problem is they want to make the point to the public, to the world. Hey, look, the richest man in the world bought a social media site and he opened the floodgates to hate, and everything that has happened since is the fault of him for allowing mind junk to saturate the commons of cyberspace. Now, this is the parallel argument to the richest man in the world has accessed the commons of low Earth orbit, and he has filled it up with space junk. So you have space junk, mind junk. Both of them saturating public commons, endangering the environment for all mankind. Why? Because capitalism. Because the richest man in the world and his privilege was able to buy himself this kind of power. We can't let this happen again. That's what we're being set up for. He's taking a fall. X is disease X. The WHO has been warning us about the disease X, the next big one that would wipe out the world and shut us down again. Well, disease X is going to be a mind virus. And the term mind virus, I would say, was repopularized by Musk in recent years. So Musk plays a big role here in the consolidation of the worldview and the censorship of the internet. He's going to precipitate an internet lockdown. Everything they did in 2020, they're going to do online. You get to wear a mind mask, get your brain vaxxed. They're going to quarantine the internet from mind viruses that might be contagious. And that's because the general public, unlike you, the IPR listeners, if you listen to Infinite Plane Radio, you are mind war inoculated. But the general public is conditioned to have mind aids, no mental immune system. And that's how they're going to remain. So they have to make the internet a safe space for people with mind aids. People like us will be unwelcome because, of course, our minds are just full, brimming with mind viruses, ready to jump to the next person. And that's what they're trying to shut down with all the justification of the entire internet. Everyone who participates online will say, well, this is necessary. The white nationalists wouldn't have nuked Seattle if they hadn't been radicalized by Elon Musk's memes and Russian disinformation, that kind of thing. And that's where they're going to go with it. And this ties in perfectly with Elon Musk's broader role. In addition to being Iron Man, Tony Stark, Gene Wilder, an amalgamation of all these characters, including Werner von Braun's construct, he's also something of Emperor Constantine, Pope Constantine, that we're witnessing the consolidation of a worldview, the new Bible, and that is what your smartphone is. As soon as they get rid of all of the non-canonical, heretical texts, and they have to, I think, make a big point. This is a controlled demolition of free speech. It's a controlled demo. They're 9/11ing your free speech. Lean Dion says the English Stabby event kicked off the riots was at a Taylor Swift themed dance class for ages 6 to 11. Interesting coding there, 6'11". Taylor Swift, fascinating. But the blaming of Elon, yeah, that's a big deal. Because they're getting the public to agree. Join my Leo Biddle. Yeah, if you want to catch lives, go to ips.monster. Okay, let's continue here. Going through my minds.com/Infinite Plane Society, where you can find all the receipts, including a link to the video Drinking Chemtrail Rain. If you don't want to miss out in the field videos, you do have to subscribe. Les Luther has been posting a lot of interesting stuff about the UK. At this point, I think we all know what we're looking at. Riots are stageable, fakeable. There may be real people at some points in the periphery, but a lot of it is closed movie sets. Easy to do. In fact, I have a link here. He showed a video, and this is from, here it is. This is in Paris, right in front of the Opera House. Here's this scene, I'll call it. This is a scene from March 23rd, 2023, and you have a lot of black-clad riot police running around, getting into place, and simulating combat, but nobody's throwing anything at them. It's like they're just pantomiming, like they're acting. Anyway, he's going through these various instances of how, from the outside perspective, you wouldn't know, and that this is essentially closing movie sets. And this is an interesting topic. Looking at Kenosha as a case study, is it feasible, is it possible to close off entire city blocks and simulate and stage and fake? Absolutely. I think January 6th, 2021 was a remarkable achievement in the field of psyops and perception management because they had all these MAGAs gathered where Trump was, and then they have this riot breaking out at the Capitol. And so you're led to believe by watching the news that these people were so mad by what Trump said that they ran up the hill and attacked the Capitol. No, it wasn't actually like that. The ellipse to the Capitol is a 45-minute walk. So you look at these MAGAs. Do any of them look like they're capable of walking for 45 minutes? I mean, from my assessment of them, from 2016 to 2020, a lot of them just kind of sat around eating popcorn, waiting for Q to save the day. And I doubt any of them made it. Because even before Trump was done speaking, and no one's going to walk out while he's speaking, before he was done speaking, before he said, go to the Capitol, fight like hell, the action had already started. So there's a 45-minute gap, and it had already started. The media was already there. The QAnon shaman, dressed up in his roadkill outfit and with his spear, was already running around. You had Baked Alaska coughing on Nancy Pelosi's desk, and all these other characters were already inside doing their psyop. As far as the Ashley Babbitt staged death because she didn't die, that might have been filmed at a separate movie set. Like, we don't know where it was filmed, but we do know there were jump cuts, and it was theatrical blood. Very squibby, totally fake. But anyway, my point being, I don't take riots seriously. I look at these things as provoked, paid agitators, mostly theater, and if you get caught up in it, you're just gullible at this point. I mean, I'm a conscientious objector, and if I see someone getting caught up in it, like, you're going to take sides. Oh, I'm going to be on Team Soy Boy. I'm going to be on Team Proud Boy. Let's go fight and throw rocks at each other. It's like you kind of get what you deserve. Okay, let's see. Ollie Goering says, LARPers, MAGA belly. Well, the MAGA belly, as you call it, is probably the COVID-19. And I'm referring to the 19 pounds that they gained while sitting at home during lockdown, the COVID-19. I didn't catch that because I had a gym across the street that never closed. In fact, they didn't even care whether or not we covered our faces. Listen to what Elon Musk wrote, or what somebody wrote pretending. I mean, I don't know if he writes his own tweets. The legacy media, that's his term. The legacy media engages in the mass synchronization of emotion for political purposes. Now, where else have you heard the word synchronization being used in conjunction with media and the mass mind? For like a month at least, we've been talking about how the real explanation for predictive programming is it's the synchronization, the deliberate synchronization of entertainment media with news media. And that they create these apparent synchronicities, and that's how they're interpreted by synchromystics. Oh, these are synchronicities. No, this is deliberate. It's to create this entrainment between entertainment and news media. It's a unified field. But here's Musk using the same terminology. The legacy media engages the mass synchronization of emotion for political purposes. But he makes a good point here. The emotion part. Yeah, they synchronize the entertainment, the video games, and everything else with the news, but the emotion part is worth highlighting here. For instance, if you watched Game of Thrones, the season that came out in 2023, is right after the Roe v. Wade leak. It was like House of the Dragon. So if you had watched House of the Dragon, or was that 2022? Okay, 2022. So this comes out at the same time of the Roe v. Wade leak. And the significance here is that as you watch the opening scene, you're watching this barbaric instance of a woman denied bodily autonomy, and she's forced to give birth to a male child at the expense of her life. Because even though she's the most powerful woman in the country, she's just a broodmare for the state ultimately. And it was barbaric, it was a bloody scene, and it was entirely mishandled. But it was on TV at the same time that the feminists and the pro-abortionists were marching. And so this is a synchronization of emotion. This gives you a visceral and visual depiction of what you don't really see, but what they want you to think is associated with it. Similarly, and this is why predictive programming is not a conspiracy theory. We had someone in here last night saying you guys are engaging in apophenia. No, there are way too many examples. I mean, try to explain Assassination Run, season finale of The Boys, season 4, episode 8, how the character Homelander, who represents Trump, is shown with blood on his face after this failed assassination attempt in this big PR piece, like where he's smiling at the camera, just like Trump was, with the blood on his face. I mean, it is such an obvious connection that they changed the title of Assassination Run to something else. And they put a warning label on it because it was so consistent with what people just experienced. We have numerous examples of this synchronization process. This is how media operates. It's the standard operating procedure. It's totally monolithically controlled. Nicholas Pitt says, was Trump born on an eclipse day? 6/14, 1946 would have been a blood moon, and many suspect that he was the moon child summoned at the Babylon working. Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, Marjorie Cameron. A total lunar eclipse took place on Friday, June 14th, 1946. That was the date. So yes, he was born on a blood moon. Tomino3 says, Chris Knowles, Sync Guy, says it's like a unified occult religion by controllers, though I think he relies on history being true. Yeah, a lot of these synchromystics do get it, in large part. But I think what synchromysticism generally misses or overlooks are the metascriptors and the human agency behind it. But they're correct in saying that these are not mere coincidences. Because the normies will say, oh, these are just coincidences. Synchromystics will say, these are synchronicities. There's something more. But they don't answer, what is that something more? What God? What entity? There is no answer. So they leave it a mystery. That's why it's synchromysticism. And I'm not engaging in mysticism here. I'm an objectivist. And objectively speaking, we are able to determine, for the most part, who wrote these various scripts. Who benefits? There's a reason why these various psyops, which are reinforced by the entertainment, etc., have political agendas, because it's not God doing it. It's it's the government. I mean, unless you're going to make the case that the force behind synchronicity, that God is a liberal Democrat trying to get you to vote left. No, it wouldn't be that partisan. And moreover, if there was some kind of mystic explanation for the predictive nature of media, it wouldn't be predicting hoaxes, in my opinion. Like, it wouldn't be predicting poorly performed psyops. Like, no, we figured it out. We really did make a leap forward when we made the connection between predictive and concurrent programming. And the thing is, a lot of synchromystics focus on these connections, but they don't get too deep into the weeds with the news, because they say it's all fake, which they're correct. But the issue with that is, if you're not looking at the news as closely as you're looking at the entertainment with the same level of scrutiny, you're not going to see the interconnectedness of it. And I think this is why they miss the human component, because they're not looking at the obvious agendas here. We're looking at perception management operations. These are beyond just quote hoaxes. Yeah, they're hoaxes, sure, but I mean, like the Trump thing, the AR-15 ear piercing. I don't know if I'd call that a hoax as much as a magic trick, but you would more likely call it a perception management or a PR stunt. And it's a PR stunt, not a false flag. It's a magic trick. Anybody saying false flag is clueless. Anyone looking for a second shooter is without a clue. We predicted that there would be second shooter BS before they started talking about all the second shooters. It's predictable. And the truthers line up like little lemmings and follow these little second shooter narratives, and it leads them away from the bare essentials here, the negative route, the subtractive, the did it even happen? And after it happened, after I published my top 11 favorite Trump head wound predictive programming examples, after that, we had Hulk Hogan go up on stage and further suggest or make increasing connections, one, to the Illuminati playing card, but two, to the blading that WWE Hall of Famers would be familiar with, and the analogous situation of his Hulkamania win, his WrestleMania win, with Trump's impending win. He was making these connections, which kind of tell you how fake it is if you read between the lines. But it's after the fact we're seeing continued examples of predictive programming and fakery and scripting all over it. Elephant Tusk says entities dominate human agency, and we're all convinced the impulses we think and feel are our own. They are not. See, when I hear claims like that, like you don't have free will and all this stuff, I'm like, you're just gaslighting me. Like, prove to me I don't have free will. That's like something Agent Smith would say. Like, no, I have free will. And as far as predestination and all that, I would need evidence. Like, you're saying that I can just stop putting effort into anything. I can just sit here and the universe is going to push me along a predetermined route. No. No. Nothing happens if I don't do anything. I would like to have some entities. If you can send some entities my way that can, motivate me and compel me to do what I need to do more effortlessly, please. But no, I'm rejecting mystic claims. I'm rejecting Mandela effects. I reject religious claims, religious miracles. I reject all of it. And if you believe in this stuff, well, now's your chance to test your faith and walk away more faithful or agnostic. But I think it's important to get the facts straight. That we're not dealing with entities, demiurges. We're not dealing with co-created reality through the TV magic box. No, we're talking about an advanced form of propaganda and worldview formation and worldview warfare first. There are other layers to this existence, sure, but this isn't the place for that. And I think one of the major guardrails that holds Trutherville intact is synchro-mystic explanations that mislead people away from calling out the fakery as such. The scale of fakery. I mean, not just the fake events, but the connectedness, the synchronization between entertainment and news media. Like, people don't understand how it's even possible, and it's because they're looking at these things from a very compartmentalized perspective. Austin 108 says, this is like a graduated Animal Farm. It's one level higher up in truth than Alex Jones, but not the full truth, which is that it's all supernatural. See, I still reject that. I still reject that. Like, prove it. Unless you're a wizard or a genie. Like, I get people say, you can just manifest your reality. Oh, okay, well, we're not all genies here. Prove it. Because the instant we let go of objectivity and say there's a point where the human mind is too feeble to grasp reality, and we must therefore let go and let the archons explain the rest. Let go, and it's all sin. Let go, and it's all fake. At that point, I think you have prematurely concluded that you know it all, that there's no more to be known. You've reached the finish line, and I disagree with that. Jay Skill says, Tim, do you believe there's an almighty creator? If not, then how did we come into existence? I don't know, and I don't trust any of the books, any of the holy books, and I don't like any of their gods. I'll be honest with you. These bloodthirsty psychopath entities. Like, I've never asked somebody to decapitate animals for my behalf or kill or slaughter some other group. Like, it's not in my nature. And I'm not going to consider, quote, a higher power to be such a being. Just read these books and it's like, this is insane. But what I am pointing out here is that to be strictly objective is the point. Because I think that there are certain, like I said, synchromysticism is a guardrail to prevent you from reaching objectivity. Then you had a lot of people who figured out how 9/11 was a hoax, how you had this movie supplanted reality where the global media is synchronized in deception. Yet the same people who find this stuff are now targeted with things like Mandela effects. And these things are meant to take you out of objectivity. But again, any kind of mysticism or simulation theory is premature. Like I'm with you that yeah, the worldview is a simulation. It's a mental construct, but it doesn't detract from objective reality. But the issue is when people live as though the simulation is the territory, the map is the territory, and that's where they want us all. And right now, I would say that mainstream media and its God constructs really does constitute a one world religion. It is a monolithic, in fact, it's the new monotheism. That's what media is. And the various other religions have all just been cowed to it. They bow beneath it. 2020 proved it. COVID Akbar conquered all the other religions. But I'm not a believer. See, I think that here's another thing too. The power elite, the programmers, and I have an ebook which I'm going to release likely tomorrow. I was going to call it "People of the Screen," because I believe there's this phrase "people of the book" used to describe, I believe probably Jews, but and I was going to use "people of the screen" as the title for this ebook I'm working on to describe the massified mind, the byproduct of a life filtered through the ubiquitous screen. But I was searching the title to see if that had been taken yet, and interestingly enough, it has already been taken by John Dyer, People of the Screen. And it's about, I guess it's about televangelism and evangelists. So it's kind of a book about evangelicals and the digital Bible. So anyway, it's not what I was, so I'm probably not going to use that title, or I may add a subtitle. But the premise here is that we can divide people because we live in a world of deception. And the programmed are believers. Just like you have religious believers. I don't think you should be a media believer. We're talking about objective reportage. You shouldn't have to say, I believe them. You should say, I know these facts because they've been reported. But what we have done is we have outsourced perception collectively. And so if you go along with the outsourced perceptions and you just accept it, yeah, the screen is another sensory apparatus, well, then you become a believer. You have no choice because the believer doesn't have enough information to know. They don't give you enough. And the alternative is to be a non-believer, which would be us. And the non-believers are knowers and informed disbelievers, but these are two different categories. And then you have the programmers who are the deliberate deceivers. And the programmers are media, entertainment, worldview reinforcing educators. And there's a lot of overlap here between programmers and the programmed because you don't have an entire class of enlightened. It's compartmentalized by necessity. It's largely like security clearances. But I have this ebook I'm working on here. I was going to call it People of the Screen. I'm going to retitle it. But I'm explaining who the programmers are, who the programmed are, what the deprogrammed are, and then the overlap here, and the world stage layout, where entertainers fall into this. Because there are many entertainers who are just reading their lines, who are just participating because it's a gig here and there, and they're certainly not aware of the big picture, yet they're part of the process of entraining minds to the propaganda. So what does that make them? Well, it means they're lower level programmers at the level where it interfaces with the general population. They're not all in the know. And it's important to understand this because people will say, well, there's no way they could fake this because too many people would know. No, you have to recognize the hierarchical pyramidal structure. This world is a massive pyramid scheme. Thank you, Bach Precision. He has brought in a basket with 5 blue wrenches, one for Conscious Daughter, Cameron Kaplan, we. Again, if you're just in chat, oftentimes we have people who will gift memberships to others, and I upload videos which are for members only, and I'm going to do more and more as time permits. I'm a little short on time right now, but I spent a lot of time today working on this ebook and a couple of other ebooks that are going to later be probably part of the next Autohoaxology installment. Let me scroll through my notes. Yesterday we talked about RFK Jr. dumping the bear carcass in New York after playing with it. You imagine that, a guy who's afraid of the vax, but not afraid of eating roadkill. Playing with roadkill. Playing with his food. Anyway, he's trying to be president or something. We were just talking about Elon Musk, who said that the legacy media engages in the mass synchronization of emotion for political purposes. They are the de facto arm of the DNC. See, here's the trick. You're agreeing with him. It's true. But what he's missing here, well, I'll complete this thought. The legacy media engages in the mass synchronization of emotion for political purposes. It's the de facto arm of the DNC. Okay, the second part. Alternative media engages in the mass synchronization of emotion for political purposes. It is the de facto arm of the RNC. Like I've been saying, all of the conspiracy theorists will vote for Trump. They're all Republicans by default. That all the QAnoners drinking the Kool-Aid end up voting for Trump because alt media is the de facto arm of the RNC. It's a bifurcated war. You know, you have some people who are terrified of Bill Gates and they love Elon Musk. Then you cross the street and they're like, I'm terrified of Elon Musk, but I love Bill Gates. Why? Bill Gates is my savior. Well, Elon Musk is your savior too if you believe that the earth is likely going to be destroyed. You know, who are you going to buy your tickets to Mars from? But it's just, I'm pointing out that it's a bifurcated war, and any of these world stage personas try to act like they're speaking about the truth to power in particular. Like here, the legacy media does this. It's like, well, so does your side. In fact, even more openly these days. Elephant Tusk says, the Archons steal your energy and life force. Inner alchemy teaches you how to steal it back and take more from them. Astral projection is closer to your limitless form. So I have a question. If you can astral project, can you go up high enough to see if there is a space station? If you can astral project, can you tell if there's a curve? Because there are a lot of people who do drugs, and they're like, yeah, I took acid, and then I saw the Earth, and I saw Mars. And it's like, oh, really? So it's a ball? So I want to know if it's compatible, or is it all just imagination? Or is there something more? I'm a skeptic when it comes to any kind of claims to a higher knowledge that you have to basically trust me, bro. I'm very low on trust these days when it comes to cosmology. All right, this is Symbia, Autohoaxology. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel in case we go live out in the field painting tomorrow. I'll put a link below.
I don't believe in chemtrails, I don't live in Truthville. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, Autohoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a backhand, so the mind day. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I've stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading Autohoaxology. Out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading Autohoaxology. Nothing can bother me. Autohoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came upon the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been minds of the auto-believer to become a new creation on the raft of receivers. Standing on the sword of truth, I step the backs of deceivers, demanding burdens further proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been saved by reading autohoaxology. Out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me. Cause I've been reading autohoaxology. Nothing can bother me. Autohoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading autohoaxology. Suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't argue with the bots about the next current thing.